Hello and welcome to Analog Shtick on what is the 9th of October. And it's been a while since we've sat down and just talked about video games. But we're going to do it today because there was a game that has become like the fastest selling sort of entertainment product in ever. Apparently broke about 7 Guinness World Records today. That one obviously being Grand Theft Auto 5. To help me discuss and dissect and all that sort of good jazz is my good friend Craig Stoughton.
Good morning.
It is nice to see you again after dissecting and Dead Space 3 in, actually, that probably is an apropos word, really, for that game. So, Grand Theft Auto 5, where to start with it, really?
Yeah, it's a bit of a beast.
It is. I came into it having the trailers, and that was about it, and I knew there was 3 characters, and that was all I wanted to know going into it. And I should sort of pre-emphasise by saying probably going to be a spoiler podcast, so if you haven't finished it yet, then just there's your warning. We'll start with the world. After what I feel, going back to San Andreas, which I thought was impressive for what they managed to do on the PlayStation 2 for the size of that world, but in terms of actual details and stuff that was actually in that world, sometimes I found it to be quite lacking. And so they stripped a lot of that away, the size of it, for Liberty City and GTA 4, but implemented more detail. And then from there, they've expanded onto that to what we have now for Los Santos. And it's just, I think it's a universal agreement that the world of Los Santos is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it just feels so much more alive. Whereas San Andreas on the PS2, there was a lot of open space. The area was huge, but there wasn't a lot in it. And Rockstar have already said that they've already said there was a lot of open space. There wasn't much going on. But this time there is so much more happening within the world. You see police chases in the middle of the desert. There's small settlements and there's people always doing something. So it's just so much fuller.
And it's not even just the size of the world and the detail in the world, it's just how everything interacts in that world. Because, I mean, we could go back to like 4 years ago or so when Just Cause 2 came out, because that world is massive.
Yeah, it's
but there are... It doesn't feel like as much of a living, breathing environment and ecosystem that GTA 5 has. I mean, it's still massive and there's still just a crazy amount of things to do. And there are still, people that are interact with and stuff like that. But just everything about GTA 5 and the amount of play. I think with Just Cause 2 as well is because a lot of it is sort of large jungle area. It's a lot easier to sort of map that out.
Yeah.
As compared to what GTA 5 does and how it splits up into its different territories and how it doesn't feel like it's just, okay, you're in the city and now you're in the desert or whatever. It feels like a natural transition between the environments.
Yeah, when you're heading along the highways between each section, it doesn't feel like, you're moving on to the next part of the story, next part of the world setting.
Yeah.
It's just seamless. It's just as if you was actually driving yourself in real world.
And
it works.
And I think the key thing as well with there is with the driving. I think they got, for me personally, the driving mechanics are the most bang on they've ever been. Because a lot of people didn't like the more weighty, heavy physics of GTA 4. And I was fine with them, but I think they found a pretty good balance between sort of the earlier GTA games and GTA 4. And I think they found a good balance now. And for me, even though it's a much bigger world than GTA 4, I spent a good portion of GTA 4 just using taxicabs to get around, because I just got to the point I can't be bothered to drive from one end of the map to the other.
Yeah, same.
At no point, besides now where I'm collecting the UFO parts, at no point was I don't fancy that. I had no issue driving from one end of the map to the other. It's just a nice experience to drive around.
Yeah, and car chases are so much more thrilling.
Yeah.
Especially if you're getting chased by, 3-star wanted level. Got a couple of homies in the back. It's just carnage.
Yeah. Because what do you think about, you just said the 3-star wanted level, what do you think about the way they tackled the sort of police system and the star rating system this time compared to previous games?
I like it. It does feel like it's more of a chase because, a couple of times when I've just got the 1-star wanted level, it's easy to lose a 1-star wanted level, but there is a hell of a lot more, challenge in losing the higher wanted levels. You can lose them though. It's just a case of hiding, and I really like that. It's not a case of the cone gets on you wherever you are. The police have to have line of sight, which I think is really good. So it's quite and it's quite a nail biter. If you're parking down an alley in the dark, you turn your headlights off and the police are shooting past you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few times where it becomes much more of a cinematic experience, if it's a pretentious word to possibly use, but it's got a little bit of a stealth mechanic to it now.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was just driving away as far as you can and just
staying out,
getting out of the circle. But now you've got, whether it's policemen or people in their cars or helicopters, there is a line of sight. And it's not just a case of being out of that line of sight by driving as far as you can. You can just find an alleyway, turn your lights off. And it's nice when you can sort of turn the camera aside. You can see, policemen go past. And it's a much more satisfying and rewarding experience to it.
Yeah, because they make you work for it.
Yeah.
It is really hard to escape.
By the end of it, I think it's the sort of easy to learn, hard to learn, easy to master. There we go.
English.
I know.
Mark Robinson.
Yeah. Because I did find for the first few hours, I was spending just far too long pissing about trying to get away from the police. But by the end of the game, you really sort of know. You have a general idea of where your environment is, and you know, okay, I can just that alleyway. And if it's night time, that's it. In about half a minute, that's it. The police are gone.
Yeah, you do sort of get a better eye for the alleyways because once you get a feel for the city, you're like, oh, where can I go now? Where can I go? Because early on in the game, you just drive straight on the road. You don't think to turn. Oh, there's a little alleyway there. You don't think to turn off there. You just sort of.
Yeah, you're just too busy thinking of, all right, I'm on the freeway, I'll keep going. But the problem is just because you've usually got policemen coming from the other side of the freeway.
Yeah, that's right.
And it just keeps restarting the whole sort of exchange all over again. Did you find at any point with the police that it was too much of a challenge? Because I don't think I think there's like the one mission where you end up with a 4 or 5 star rating, but for the most part, I never found them to be that big of a hassle. And I mean, I didn't spend a lot of this game going on full-on rampages in open world playtime like I did in previous games.
I think there was a few missions where I was just you just sort of, if you lose a little bit of let your attention drop, you just lose focus. I think it's easy just to keep slipping back into full-on wanted. They're all gunning for you. But I never thought it was ridiculously hard to lose at wanted level. Even the higher wanted levels, when you've got a hell of a lot more gunpowder coming after you. I never really thought it was that. I wasn't going at it for an hour and a half, getting chased by the same police who wanted me because I run over some old lady.
Yeah, because for me, the only time I ever really struggled was the one mission, and it's one of the heists where you can either do one way of doing it or the other way, which is you have to get a submarine and then you have to fly into an army base or go into an army base and get the helicopter they got there. And I struggled with that, but that wasn't really the police. That was more I'm dealing with the army, and you're in their base. And the moment you step into the base, just all these red dots appear on the map. So that took a while to find a way to get in there, which mainly involved getting in a helicopter, flying into the other helicopter pretty much full on head speed, jumping into it, and making my escape. Let's talk about the characters then. Michael, Trevor, and Franklin. What were your immediate impressions of them by the end of the game? Was there a favourite? Or just what do you feel about the characters now you've had the experience of going through the game with them?
Well, prior to the game, I didn't watch the trailers about the characters. I'm normally quite, I want to read everything about it, watch everything about it, but I only ever watched the one trailer for GTA 5. So when they said, it's 3 characters, here's a trailer for each, I never watched the trailers. So I kind of went in blind. All I knew was that there was 3 different characters. It's hard to pick a favourite because there was moments in the game where each and every one of them had an exchange with another character or said something while I was just driving around that had me laughing out loud. It's been, it's the first all the GTA games have been funny in their own right. This is the one that's actually really made me proper laugh. I think the humour in it is really, really good. I think in terms of favourites, I think whenever you change character, my favourite one is Trevor, just because you don't know what he's going to be doing, where he's going to be, what clothes he's going to be wearing, and the scenario he's sort of woken up in with a bottle of beer in his hand. But it's quite hard to pick a favourite. Michael, I love Michael just because, just the way he interacts with his family, because he's not the most unique character. You've seen, there's always TV shows where you get a character like head of the household, family hate to love him, love to hate him, sort of thing. Yeah, no, it's just the way he enters his house and he goes, "Daddy's home, bitches." Just stuff like that really made me laugh. Franklin, well, after San Andreas, they had to have a black character. I think everybody's sort of comparing him to CJ, which I think is quite an unfair comparison because he's nothing like CJ.
Yeah,
he's sort of the street gangbanger who doesn't really want to be a street gangbanger, but he just keeps getting drawn in because of what he's been brought up in. But again, some of the exchanges he has, especially with Lamar, had me laughing out loud, just because it's believable.
See, probably because as a sort of borderline middle-class suburban white kid, I've not had many exchanges in that type of environment. So for me, it, to a certain degree, seemed believable, but to a certain degree, it seemed so far, like with the volume turned up to 11 and the ridiculousness of the language between them was turned up to 11. And that might just be my cultural ignorance with that sort of environment. But there are times where the conversation between them, it felt like a lot of the language and tone that was just used for the sake of using it. Like there was the subtleness of a brick. And there were times I found the exchanges between Trevor and Michael could be like that as well. And I thought for the most part the writing in the game was pretty solid, but there were times where I did find that the dialogue just went so beyond the realms of absurdity. And I guess to a certain point, because GTA 5 is a little bit lighter in tone compared to GTA 4, but then at times it can be heavier in tone depending on what the sort of situation was. Like certainly stuff with like Michael's family and the situation they end up in. But they sort of go between the lines of light and dark, if you will. So like Lamar's character is
ridiculous.
Yeah. And I guess to a certain point, it's that sort of a lighter side of Franklin. So Franklin can play the straight-laced character that he needs to play. Because for me, Franklin is the character that we always play in a GTA game. He's always the rags to riches story.
Yeah.
But because there's so many elements to this game, he can play that consistently straight-laced character. Like you had like Tommy Vercetti, who was very much a Scarface, Al Pacino type of character, and because of that you could have many extremes because Vice City was that type of game. But I don't know, I think sometimes the dialogue just goes way over onto a spectrum that I think was kind of unnecessary, and I think sometimes just the humour could have been, I say scaled back, but just been a little bit smarter. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a game use the word fuck as many times as GTA 5 did. Like, there were times where I think, right, it's been about 6 seconds, I think we can throw another fuck in there. But, I don't know, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah. Very foul-mouthed.
But, so with... Shall we say Trevor then? I mean, because Trevor is the most interesting character in that game.
Yeah.
I think most people knew going in he was going to be something very different to any character we've seen before. With the, if you want to say, irony being that he's the character that most people play as in previous GTA games. He is the open world psychopath in all of us that just goes on a rampage and in his own internal logic feels justified for everything that he does.
Yeah.
Do you think that his character goes so far in one direction? Do you think that there's enough blend of different nuances of emotions and just the ways that he reacts that he's a very, very, very interesting character and there's a lot of layers to him? Or is it just, no, he's a psychopath and he just does things because he can, and in his mind he feels that's just what he has to do?
I think it's that one. I think, because if you, like, a lot of the stuff of what he says, he actually says at one point, I do stuff, I can't really remember the line, but he says he can do stuff because he can. I mean, he doesn't think of himself as a sort of like a nutcase. He sees himself as an entrepreneur.
You see, I think like one of the lines is like he feels like he's the most honest person there is.
Yeah.
And like I was thinking as well, and I was talking to someone else about it the other way. There's the line that Heath Ledger's Joker says, where he's like a dog chasing his tail, and I think like he's just an agent of chaos.
Yeah, definitely. Especially as all the rampage missions in this one are Trevor's.
Yeah.
And the setup for them are brilliant because it's normally someone either mocking him or bumping into him or just getting in his way, and he sees the only way to get him out of the way or to take back the insult is to just butcher him with a weapon of his choice.
Yeah. And what did you think about the should we say infamous torture mission? Because I heard rumblings about it as I was getting up to that point, and then it happened, and it was only about halfway through that I thought, oh, I guess this is that torture mission. And maybe I am just completely desensitized to this sort of stuff. Maybe, and I think part of it for me as well is I found certain scenes in Max Payne 3 and other scenes actually in GTA 5 to be more uncomfortable than this one, because I think all of it comes round to, I think if it had been over the other two characters, there might have been it might have had more impact of a scene, but because it was Trevor, I think just in your mind, that you're in the mind of Trevor.
Yeah, you just sort of go with it.
You just go with it.
Yeah.
And I think the only part of it is it was weird that he was taking these orders from someone else about torturing this person, and Trevor is, he is his own man. He doesn't do this sort of thing. But then the playoff, or the payoff for that is when he decides not to kill the guy, and then takes him to the airport, and then just sort of, just right on your way, you're a free man now.
Lost.
And I think that the contrast between those two moments are so completely absurd as compared to talking about sort of the conversation being absurd. But in this environment, it just, I don't know, I didn't find the torture scene to be as distressing or as upsetting as some people found it to be.
Yeah, no, I was the same, because when it popped up and you get to choose which method you're going to use on this poor guy sitting in this seat, I didn't really, I don't know, I suppose it didn't really register. I don't know if like you, I'm desensitized to it, but I think
at the teeth pulling one, I was a little bit
especially when the little window popped up and you could see the root coming out. I think I was laughing at that bit more than anything. It's just, I think it was just, it's a tough one. I mean, because I didn't know there was an infamous torture scene. I was quite out of the loop with that. So when it happened, it wasn't until after I'd done that and I'd heard a little bit that people were sort of going a little bit, it would become the infamous torture scene, and I didn't think it was that bad, considering there are some films that do torture scenes a hell of a lot more graphically and more drawn out and more horrific than that.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, it would be hard for a game to do that sort of thing, because just mechanically doing something like that, at the end of the day, you're just holding a controller and you're waggling some analog sticks about.
Yeah.
I don't think that can ever have the same impact as just watching a film where visually what you're seeing is more realistic.
Yeah.
Then, alright, fair enough, video game graphics are at a point now where they are pretty amazing, but just, for me, there is always the disconnect between the controller and what I'm seeing on the screen in terms of stuff like violence like that. And that's me trying to be slightly more analytical and smart ass about it, but if you want a more simplified approach, I'll just say, look, fucking Manhunt exists, alright? There is nothing in this game that is anywhere near as violent as some of the stuff in Manhunt.
Yeah.
And that was, 10 years old or so?
Yeah.
So, there is my reasoning for why this is nowhere near as bad as some people have made it out to be, but I think probably some people say, well, this is the biggest selling game of all time, and so, the range of people that will be playing it, kids or otherwise, it's going to be open to more eyes than, say, Manhunt was, which was, I know it was banned in Australia. I don't know where else it was banned. Probably a few other countries.
I think it was taken off the shelf. It was taken off the shelf a little while.
Yeah. But I don't know, I didn't find it to be as bad as it was made out to be. But maybe we're just sick bastards.
Maybe.
One of my main critiques of the game is, and it's kind of a compliment to Rockstar as well, the heists are so well put together, and the way that the first one is built up is so well done, but there's only 6 or 7 of them, and the pacing between them, just I think my issue is that, as I said, because the first one is built up so well, and because they give you sort of RPG-like mechanics with the people that you can use to do these heists with, and that they do improve and you can use them for other heists afterwards, there's just not enough of a payoff, and there's not enough of them to really make it seem like it's a worthwhile investment. And like when you first play it, there's no real thought about, well, you are thinking about, okay, well, I want to try and get as much money out of this as I can. So am I going to use this person who's not as good but won't cost me as much money, or shall I just take the hit and use this person who I know will get to the end of the mission? If you use the person who's not as good, their stats will improve, and their pay doesn't increase, so you're always paying them a little bit less. But at the end of the game, if you play it right, you can end up with like a fucking $1 billion if you play the stock markets right, and money is never a big thing in this game. So I think what the issue here is, because GTA 5, and you just look at the credits at the end of it, and it's a 15-minute fucking ending credit sequence, and the amount of people that are on it, I just wonder if there was just too many people with too many ideas and like certain elements which are all good ideas on their own when put in this one timeline or this one sort of stream of consciousness. It makes it, they don't work well with each other. I don't know if you felt anything like that at all.
Well, I did, because I knew the characters were bank robbers, so I thought, oh, maybe it's just a series of heists. But at the same time, I was thinking, if it's just heists, it'd get really samey, and it wouldn't necessarily feel like a Grand Theft Auto game. I think it would have been better if there was a few more heist missions, because, as you said, the setup for them, it was really cool. Getting getaway vehicles, setting a point, like parking the car when you make your getaway and stuff like that. I really like the setup. I just don't think there was enough. I think maybe, as you said, there was loads and loads of people working on it. Maybe it was too many ideas, and they were trying to sort of squash them in. But I would definitely liked a few more heists, because you don't get much opportunity to really build a solid team. If you say, for instance, in one of the missions, you meet that guy at the Life Invader offices, and after you do that mission, he's out of work. You can use him as your computer expert for your heists. I used him. First opportunity I got, I used him. He wasn't very good, but by the end of the game, his stats were maxed, and he still only took like a 4% cut. So the investment was good there, but there was other characters where I hadn't used them, so I was like, well, it's not really worth me using them at this point in the game. I just think if there was more of them, you could really flesh out a really good heist team. So I think on the first heist, my getaway, I think one of my gunmen that I picked, he was on the bike, and just as we hit the tunnel, we got taken out.
And I had that as well.
I lost about $1.5 million on that.
Well, with the Life Invader, like, so with him, was that which mission which heist was that on?
It was the jewellery one.
Okay, so was that just a case of the time you had to get money was shortened significantly because his hacking wasn't as good?
Yeah, I think I had like a 30-second window.
Yeah.
But it was still manageable. I still cleared every cabinet.
Yeah.
I cleared every cabinet for that on that mission, and he took a really, really small cut, so I used him every time.
Yeah, because for me, I ended up just using, besides Chef, just because I thought he was a really cool character.
Yeah.
Like, he's only a small part, but I liked him. He reminded me of something out of Breaking Bad for some reason.
Yeah, I think that was the intention, because he's got a bald head and a beard.
Probably. I just ended up using the most expensive people because it was more convenient, but also I just realised not too far into the game, there's like money doesn't seem to be anything here that is ever going to cause me problems throughout the game. I always had money to do whatever I needed to do, and for the most part, the only things that you need money for are to buy property and guns. And it's like, well, I can't see anything here. I bought like one property, and I ended up just doing a few menial pick up vehicle at point A and drop it at point B. And I was like, this doesn't really seem like a worthwhile investment. And the only other thing you need money for is guns. And at no point in the game was I ever out of ammo or guns.
Yeah.
So I just ended up just using the most expensive characters, and they didn't really, for me, feel that much of a risk reward. The only thing there was just the risk of doing it with the lesser characters, just to see what the scenario might end up like.
Yeah.
But in terms of actually sort of trying to save money where you can, it didn't really.
Yeah, I
feel necessary.
I used, as I said, the lower priced hacker. I improved his skills. There was when it was picking stuff like the getaway driver or someone handling the guns, I tended to invest a bit more money, because on that mission where you break into the FIB building, you have to parasol, like you have to run down the side of the building. My getaway driver was pretty decent.
Yeah.
So when I got outside, he was waiting for us in an ambulance. There was all these police there, and he was waiting. We literally just everyone just jumped into this ambulance. So I sort of thought to myself, if I picked a worse, like who wasn't as good, what vehicle would have been sat there, and how would the rest of the mission played out? Because literally all we had to do was climb into the ambulance, drive away at a decent pace, and then that was it.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Did you find, and this is a complaint I've heard, and I do tend to agree with some of the argument that with the heists, I mean, the way they are set out, they're very intricately set out, and that makes for really good set pieces, but it also restricts a lot of what you can do, because it did seem there were times where you would fail the mission for really pointless, trivial things, and they didn't ruin the enjoyment of the experience for me, other than just it slowed me down a little bit, because you'd just be standing there and you would do just something random and you would fail the mission for it. And the heists were the main issue for that, because the way they're set out. But, as a game designer, trying to find a balance of that is not the easiest thing to do. But, did you ever find scenarios like that at all?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I think the heist missions were probably the most straightforward missions I had on the game, because once you've done the setup, it was just a case of doing it, like getting there and then setting up. I don't think I ever had any problem with it. Maybe that was because in some respect there's a lot of hand holding in those missions just to get you through.
Yeah. Well, one of the big things about the game was the fact that you had the three characters and you could swap between them.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be just really, you would swap between them whenever you felt necessary, but the game really makes it quite clear. You should probably switch to this character now.
Yeah.
Was you sort of for or against that, or you just went with the flow?
No, I liked it because you didn't have to do it. You didn't have to, because there were some missions where I was playing and it was highlighting the character to flick to, and I wouldn't do it, or I did it too late, and one of the other characters would pay the consequences for it.
Yeah.
So I think it was. You get a lot of people complaining that the games are too easy. So maybe they could have given you the option of assists, or just so you can play it out as you want to play it out. So if one of the characters gets in trouble, it's up to you which character to switch to, not tell you which one has the better position, because you might not necessarily agree with it. You might have a different play style.
Yeah.
I think the way they set it up is so that you get a little bit more. I suppose you're in the action a lot. You're in the action a hell of a lot more than if you was to stick with one character. If you've got waves of enemies coming towards you and you're only sticking with one character, there'll be a point in that mission where the character hasn't got anything to aim at. So I suppose in some respect they want to keep the game as interesting as possible by making sure you're always doing something, regardless of which character you're playing as.
Yeah, I mean, like the flow of the game, where you have, with the heist, for example, in that for the first sort of build up to it, you're only going around and you're only collecting vehicles or collecting guns and then dropping them off where you're going to have it for sort of after the heist.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you actually do the heist itself, it is very much, there is bang, 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 one thing after another. And in terms of dynamics and pacing, I think they were really, really spot on. I think they were really, really well executed. And I think the heists in general were really well executed.
Yeah.
I just wish there were fucking more of them.
Yeah.
But I think I'm sure there will be DLC. That is something. If they put like a patch of sort of like 5 or 6 a DLC patch of like 5 or 6 heists in there, I would be all over that.
Yeah, definitely.
I would be all over that.
Yeah, because that's a lot of content, even if it is just 5 or 6. That's a lot of content in there.
And the thing is as well,
each one.
Yeah, and the thing is if they can just primarily focus on that, there doesn't have to be anything else. No Strangers and Freak missions. It's just it can be that.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a thing as well. Strangers and Freaks, or the side quest in general, a very big part of the open world sandbox experience. And I've had good times and bad times with this sort of stuff. Bad times mainly being Assassin's Creed 2, because that was where the light switched off for me. When I was like, why the fuck am I collecting these feathers? What is the payoff for this? There is no fucking payoff for this. I found the side quests in this to be some of the more, besides the heist really, some of the most enjoyable parts of the game, because they made some really enjoyable characters and had some completely absurd scenarios and setups. That was the sort of things that could only happen in Los Santos.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I've never been to LA. I've been to America, but I think a lot of people say that New York and LA are as completely far removed as you can possibly get. And I can believe that. And you just some of the characters in the game, like the elderly British couple, Beverly, the photographer.
Yeah.
What a piece.
Yeah.
An absolute piece.
Yeah.
I just think that and this is what really sets it apart from GTA 4. And I just want to say, by the way, anyone that says that GTA 4 is a bad game is just wrong.
Yeah.
I don't see where the hell this backlash has come from in the last couple of years towards that game. But I think one of the things that really makes GTA 5 stand out is that all of these side quests, they're all very outlandish. They don't seem too repetitive. They all perfectly seem to can exist in this world of a fictional LA. And they're just fun. I had a really good time with them.
Yeah, I liked them because there wasn't like your normal side quest where you do one thing and that would be it. Because I remember in GTA 4 they did introduce a sort of Strangers and Freak element into the game. I think there was only about 5 of them, but it'd be like go and talk to them. That's it.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. This one, I think they've really put a lot of effort into writing these out because some of them have got more than one part to them, so it's not a case of you do this and that's it. You never see the characters again. There's a good sort of there's a good lot of story to each.
Yeah, they just set up like chapters.
Yeah, because in Rockstar did it in Red Dead Redemption, where you'd have a sort of similar missions like this. It'd be investigating something, but again, it'd be like GTA 4. You go to the area in some respect. The build up would be sort of the same, where you'd go to an area. And then after going to 3 or 4, maybe even 5 areas, you'd get to the end and you'd end up having to have a shootout with someone, or you'd get ambushed by a load of bandits. But I think in this one, they're like mini episodes of Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah,
it's sort of like GTA is the soap opera, and these are the little sort of mini adventures that tie into the main.
The mini adventures of Trevor.
Yeah, it is. A lot of them are the mini adventures of Trevor.
And I like that, that all 3 characters can. I mean, it's this sort of game in general, really, that all these 3 characters, they just weave in and out of the main story, and then they have all these other things that are going on in their own life.
Yeah.
And it gives the game that real ecosystem, organic feel to it, because, along with that, and when you sort of change between characters, and they're off doing their own thing, whether it's Trevor's on the side of a mountain in his dress, or Franklin's playing with Chop, it gives all the characters just this feeling that if you're playing with someone for an hour and you're like, okay, I'm done with this now, you can just swap and go and do something else with someone else. And it makes the game consistently feel fresh.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for me, my patience can be quite poor with games sometimes, but I easily sat down and played GTA 5 for about 8 hours just because I was swapping between characters.
Yeah,
and it felt like I was still playing GTA 5, but playing a completely different part of GTA 5.
Yeah, because different activities unlock for certain characters, so there's always something different to do.
The flying sucks.
Yeah, I used to quite like flying planes, but I hate it because they've made it they've added turbulence.
Yeah.
And if your flying skill isn't great, the turbulence is not turbulence. It's just dive.
Yeah. And the helicopters.
Yeah, I hate helicopters. I've never struggled flying a helicopter as much as I have in
Oh my god. I spent a while actually just in a helicopter. Like, I'm going to, by the end of this game, know how to fly one of these properly. And I was kind of getting along the lines of it, but I was only playing GTA Online briefly for a bit, and I got in a helicopter, and I was trying to follow a car. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
Because he turns sharply one way, and the way that the camera is fixed onto the helicopter, you just lose track of whatever the hell you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, underwater mechanics in games have always been annoying, but they were fine in this one, to be fair. Although I didn't really spend a lot of time underwater.
Yeah, no, I haven't really.
No. I haven't looked for a shark yet. So.
I've only come across one shark, and that was when I was picking the submarine up out of the water. It was chasing my helicopter's hook. I thought it was just a fluke in the direction, but it was actually following the hook.
No.
So, yeah, I could have caught a shark on my helicopter.
I would have liked to have seen a picture of that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything. Is there anything you want to add, or is there anything I haven't said yet that you want to bring out or point out?
No, I'm just looking forward to the online to get fixed, really, so it can work.
Yeah, I briefly had a crack on online, and I had no issues with it, but I don't know. There didn't seem anything to it that made me think that I was gonna really heavily invest any time in it.
Yeah.
And I think that perhaps the slight downfall, if you want to have one, for the size of the map of GTA 5 is that with GTA 4, it felt a little bit more like a sort of self-contained environment, and there was always, for the most part, everyone just drove to the airport, got a helicopter, and then flew to the Statue of Liberty.
Yep.
And spent most of it flying into each other around there.
Yeah, and rocket launching each other.
Yeah. It doesn't really feel like there's any sort of self-contained environments or anything like that. It just feels all too spread out. And I don't know, I'm not feeling it. And I don't know how much time I might spend with GTA Online.
Yeah, I've only had a short time with it. What I did was I quite liked, but once you get past the tutorial section and all these jobs open up, there's just blue sections all over the map. You're thinking, well, I knew I was thinking, that is a lot of shit to do.
Yeah.
That is a lot of shit. And everyone has their own favourite type of missions. I'm not really a big racer. I don't really like driving games. So I'm probably not going to touch much of the racing games unless I'm really, really bored. Because, I don't like racing against AI, so I'm not going to like racing against someone who kings the hell out of racing.
I really enjoyed the racing stuff in GTA 4 because it was the first time I had a racing game that felt a little bit like Destruction Derby.
Yeah.
And I fucking love the Destruction Derby games. And every race was the same. All the cars would start off, and then before you've even got to the first corner, at least 6 of those cars are just completely wiped out.
Yeah.
I loved it, and I'm going to have to probably try a few of them and see how that fares out. But, I do enjoy racing games, but the GTA games and the racing and the way it's done, for me, feels different to any other type of racing game. So, yeah, I get that it's each story in there. For me, I probably won't do a lot of the deathmatch stuff. I'm not too interested in that because the shooting mechanics in the game, it's one extreme with the other. It's just you snap onto a person and it's a complete snap on. There's no sort of give or take, or it's just you turn it off. And I don't think that really works when you're playing against other people. Yeah,
especially when I did the tutorial deathmatch, it was a snap, but it's like Rockstar kind of carried their shooting mechanics over from Red Dead, where you can snap to a target, you flick the right analog stick up a little bit, and then you can aim for the head.
Yeah.
I quite like that, but I'm lazy. If I can shoot them quickly, that's fine.
But I think the problem is that when you're on foot, you have the automatic lock-on system. When you're on any type of vehicle, you don't.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And so you have the advantage, really, of being on foot.
Yeah.
Because you can drive towards them, but by the time you've got to them...
They've locked onto your character.
They've locked onto your character, yeah.
Melted you.
Yeah. So I don't know whether it would just be better for them to just turn off all the lock-in systems altogether. But I said I don't think I'm going to spend as much time with the online portion compared to when I first saw it. And I thought, yeah, I'll spend a lot of time with this. Probably not taking into account how fucking long that single-player campaign actually is.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I never felt like it was dragging for me. I made a big mistake with GTA 4 that I played about half the game and then I got addicted to online for about a month. And then I found it very difficult to go back and finish it. But I got through the campaign and yeah, I never felt like I was at a point where I was like, I'm bored of this now, I want to do something else. I never had that.
Yeah, no, me neither. I smashed the tits off the campaign. I got it 2 days after it come out, and I'd finished it before most people who got it on the day it come out. So yeah, I never had any issue with sort of getting sort of GTA fatigue. I just went for it and loved every minute of it.
So what's your kind of gameplay style? Do you do a couple of hours of campaign stuff and then fuck about for an hour, or do some side quests, or was it just whatever? If something, just because the game does take a lot of elements from Red Dead in that you'll be going along and just something will pop up. I always get distracted by it and have to go and see what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of the time I did do that. But my playing method was I'd bring up the character selection circle and see how many missions each of them could do. And then what I'd do was go for the one with the highest number and then tick off the missions and then move to the next character, tick off the missions. Because I mean, a lot of the time there was some where they all did the same mission. They were all part of the only difference you'd get would be the start of dialogue to which character you took down there. But yeah, that's how I sort of tick off the mission number that they had, and then after I do a few, I'd have a look at the map to see what I had available, to see what like side bits and pieces. I'd do the Strangers and Freaks, and then I did all the base jumping, which was really fun. I quite liked doing all the parachute missions once they were unlocked. But yeah, no, I liked when I first get a GTA game, my playstyle has always been do the story, unlock everything, and then Carnage mode kicks in.
See, if I leave all of the side quests and stuff till after the game's finished, I won't do them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always I found this with other GTA games and I found this with other open world games. I feel like I've just closed off that chapter.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for me to go back and finish all those bits and pieces off.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I've only got I think 3 Strangers and Freaks missions left, but they're the spaceship parts, the letter scraps, and then once you've done every other Strangers and Freaks, you unlock one more, which is called the last one. I haven't done that yet.
One last question then, and I feel it's too early to really put too much thought into it. Is should they make another GTA game, and where would they set it? And I ask this because the thing about the GTA games and what makes them what they are, is they are consistently a reaction to American life and pop culture of American life. And to take it out of that scenario, essentially, for me, doesn't make it a GTA game. I would like them to do a game like this set in London. Because, I mean, they have done a GTA game set in London.
Yeah.
Many, many years ago, but it was also a completely different game. But I don't know whether it would have the core soul of what makes a GTA game what it is. And because if it's, Rockstar North or whatever, it's always different when you've got English people looking at American life compared to American people looking at life. And I imagine it's the same vice versa. You look at like Doug Stanhope, for example, and the way he looks at British life. And it's all very, very true, but I think that some English people wouldn't see it the way compared to how some American people can see the way of British life.
Yeah.
So I wonder, you can always go bigger and badder and that sort of stuff, but that I think would now be getting to the point where it's just being done for the sake of excess. And certainly, I'd like to see GTA 5 on next gen and on PC just to see just how good that game can look.
Yeah,
because it looks amazing as it is at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think the other side of it as well is that because Rockstar have such a proven track record with all their other games that take a core GTA sandbox type experience, but put it into different scenarios, like Red Dead Redemption, that I think if they do anything, if they ever decided to do anything like in London, I think it would just have to be a different game. And I just think that for the many, many billions and millions and billions that they made, they pretty much have free reign to go and do whatever they want for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a very, very long time before we saw anything. I mean, I'm sure we're going to have DLC and stuff like that for at least the next year and year and a half. And GTA Online will keep things ticking over for a while. But I don't know, part of me thinks there isn't a need to make another GTA game. But that's...
They will. I think they will.
I'm sure they will.
I think... I like they strip back San Andreas, because in the original San Andreas you had Los Santos, San Fierro, and Las Venturas. I would like to see Las Venturas because it's Las Vegas, Sin City. Even if they just made, if they made a DLC pack like they did with GTA 4, it was set in the same city, but you had 2 new characters, so you saw the city from a different perspective. You've already got 3 characters. So if they were going to introduce new characters, maybe it should be in a different. Maybe it'd be a different city of San Andreas. So you'd get Las Venturas. But I don't know. I think it's too early to gauge whether they should make another GTA game, because this one is still really fresh.
Oh yeah,
it's just going to be interesting to see what they do with GTA Online, because I remember reading before the game was released and the online was sort of being hyped up that Rockstar they have the intention of bringing past cities into the online if they can get it to work. If they
can fucking fix the first slight problem being that the whole damn thing doesn't work.
Yeah. So if once they can get it cleared up and it works and it's it's awesome, it'd be quite interesting to see what they do to the online, because it's just gonna be a case of strapping stuff onto it. I mean, there's loads doing it already. But I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I love a GTA game. Yeah. So it's always a big event. So GTA 6, whatever they call it. It's a long way off in the distance. I think people talking about the next GTA game, I just think, can play the game we got now.
Yeah,
it's been
been
long enough.
Well, the last 2 questions I'll ask you then. Well, to be fair, one of them might be sort of not really a question that needs to be asked, depending on what the first one is. But best GTA game, and is it best Rockstar game?
Ooh, I don't know. See, I really like my favourite GTA game was Vice City. I love the setting, like the time, like the decade it was set in, everything about it, the music, the whole feel. It just felt good. So I don't know, best GTA game. Probably not for me. It might be for other people, but definitely not for me, because my favourite is Vice City, and I know a lot of people have their own.
Most people tend to go between Vice City and San Andreas.
Yeah, I think because they were the one where Vice City was the one where you actually had a proper main character who spoke. He actually interacted with the characters. Because I'm not a big fan of 3. I never finished 3.
I finished 3 about 1,000 fucking times.
Yeah, I remember watching bits and pieces and never going on it, but I never really got into it because I'm not a fan of the silent protagonist.
I think with GTA San Andreas, that was the point where the game fully opened up to be just the biggest dickhead that you wanted to be.
Oh yeah,
and fuck about.
Yeah,
and yeah, I think that's what the selling point is for a lot of people like that. But yes, for me, Vice City, the character of Tommy Vercetti and other guys like Lance Vance and just all these characters and the way they are and in that environment, it was the perfect environment and setting for a GTA game.
Yeah,
it was just these 2 elements combined together, made one perfect compound. But then, so if we're not saying it's the best GTA game, GTA 5, what is the best Rockstar game?
Oh, again, that's a really tough one. I don't know. It's hard to call on that one. I mean, I love everything that Rockstar do, because it's almost a given that anything that Rockstar put out has been made with the utmost care and attention, and it's good.
Even their table tennis games.
Exactly. Even their table tennis game, which was completely random, but it worked.
Yeah.
It was a really good game. It's really hard to call. I mean, they've released a couple of good ones over the last few years. I'd say that is a really hard question.
Because I'm throwing it out there that Red Dead Redemption is the best game.
See, that's what I was floating towards, Red Dead Redemption, because
just the character of John Marston is it's just the best character that they've ever made.
Yeah.
Like, the perfect anti-hero, and the ending of the game, like, that is, for me, in, like, the top 5 best endings to a video game.
Yeah, because I remember the ending to the game, and I sat there for a minute, truly shocked at what happened, because I was gutted that, you know, you'd spent all this time with this character, and he was, you know, he was a really good character to play as. He had all this sort of swagger about him. So yeah, I was truly gutted when you changed to his son. And
like, because the ending in GTA 5, I think, like, it's weird, and I was saying this the other day as well, it's weird that they give you the 3 options for 3 completely different endings, and I'd like to think most people just went with option C because that's just the right option to take. And I heard some people were kind of dissatisfied with the ending, but I had no problem with it. I thought that it tied up all the loose ends, and it had for a Rockstar game, had a feel-good ending to it.
Yeah.
Which a lot of Rockstar games don't usually have.
Yeah. I don't like main characters dying. I've a massive issue with main characters dying.
I have no problem with it if it's done well and not done for the sake of doing it. And I don't think Rockstar do that sort of thing for the sake of doing it, because, like, with Red Dead, that was a very, very powerful ending. And and I think if they hadn't done that, it wouldn't be as memorable.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it just ends that game, because it is a tragic story throughout, really.
Because of the type of setting, you look at any, because I mean it's a Western setting.
Yeah.
So any that was the way it was always going to end.
And the only thing I find peculiar about having the 3 options, and I don't know if Rockstar made it with this intention in mind, in that they wanted you to... I mean, because you have the heist as well, where you can do the heist in different ways.
Yeah.
But they have it that now the way the game is set up, you don't have to play through the game again. You can just do those those missions again, which is good. But I still just find it peculiar that, and again, I don't think this is why they did it, but with games back in the day like Silent Hill, where you had like 4 different options, and you had to play, or 4 different endings, sorry, and you had to play the game in 4 entirely different ways to get those endings, and it was a very rewarding experience to get them. Now, if you have different options to games, I can just go onto YouTube, type it in,
and watch the endings.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I don't even want to choose option A or B. I don't want to kill Trevor or Michael.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go and watch them, because it was the only time in a game where I was like, I don't actually want part of this experience. You know, I didn't have it with the torture scene or anything like that. But I was like, even though Trevor is a very, very complicated person, hey, he has a heart. He falls in love with Patricia, for fuck's sake.
Oh, one of my favourite parts of the game.
And there was no fucking way, for all of the bullshit that he has done and goes through and the way he is, it was like there was no way I was killing Michael.
Yeah.
Because we vicariously live through Franklin, essentially. In every GTA game that we play, we are the rags to riches story.
Yeah.
And Michael is the person that has done that, which to a certain degree actually is us again, because we have done all this before. But he is essentially like a brother or a father figure.
Yeah, definitely.
There is no way I'm killing him. And I suppose that's credit to Rockstar that they could make me have that feeling of, like, there is no fucking way I'm picking option A or B. So maybe they did it just for that purpose. It's very hard to sort of tell unless one of them, like Sam Houston, sat down and said, this is why we had these options.
Yeah.
And I thought kind of back and forth about it for the last couple of days about why they are there. Was it necessary? Or whether it had just been better just to have that option C ending as the only ending.
I suppose maybe why they put it in there is because you've got the 3 characters.
Yeah, I mean, it only comes down to Franklin, though.
Yeah,
like there's not different endings for it.
Yeah, I thought that Trevor kills.
I thought there would be 3 endings for each of the characters.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, but
maybe this was the best way they could tie it up. I don't know. It is quite a tough one to sort of ask why they would give you that option. But I mean, as you said, it's Franklin's the rags to riches story, so it would be. I don't know. He's become a player in the game now, but he's sort of fallen in with people that know they can manipulate him to a certain extent. Yeah. But he's not the character he is, he's not the type to bend over and take it just because someone's told him to. So I like that. I always like the option C. I did think if there was no option C, I probably wouldn't have finished the game. Just because I didn't want to see the ending of Trevor dying or Michael dying, because it would have been like a Marston moment. It would have been like a John Marston moment. What the fuck?
Yeah, I think the thing is as well is that in the back of my mind playing Red Dead, I always felt like that was a potential ending.
Yeah.
There was no part of me that thought that there was any scenario where any three of these would die. I don't know why, but in my mind it's like, no, the ending in this game will be the three of them, whatever scenario. But it was either that or they was going to have sort of a standoff between the three of them.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to be the most likely.
But I didn't think anyone would die. So GTA 5, I think it's rather good.
I quite keen on it myself.
I'd say you should go and play it, but I don't think there's anyone who owns an Xbox or a PS3 that hasn't played it.
Yeah.
So, Final Fantasy 14. Tell me about that.
Well, I've been playing it for the last week and a half, and when it comes to MMOs, I'm not the most experienced. I've tried World of Warcraft. I get to about level 20, and then I get bored. I'm currently sitting at level 23 on Final Fantasy, and I'm still really, really enjoying it. I don't know if it's because it's a Final Fantasy game. I've always been, I got into Final Fantasy games at 7, and I've always loved playing them. And Final Fantasy 7 is one of my favourites, but I do like the ones when they go sort of back to their roots, when you've got the different job classes, the different classes of like characters. You've got warrior, monks, mages, that sort of thing. I know a lot of people aren't keen on the battle system.
In Final Fantasy games in general, or this one?
Just this one, because they introduced it in 11, where you had it's an MMO, so they have to make certain changes in order for it to work as an MMO. Mm-hmm. But when they made Final Fantasy 12, they brought that battle system across, and they've never really gone back to a traditional turn-based RPG battle system. That's why I think Final Fantasy 13 sort of suffered a little bit, because I've played it and it is good, but it's just too streamlined. But 14
is it? Because for me, my knowledge of, because I don't really play JRPGs, but my knowledge of sort of turn-based systems consists of either the Final Fantasy 7 system, where you have your recharge bar for how long when you can do attacks, and then your over limit break, or the Ni no Kuni system of having a sort of turn-based system, but also you're moving around in real time. Yeah. So, what one does this more represent? Sort of the last couple of Final Fantasy games and this one.
Yeah, it's like it's a more traditional MMO one. So you lock onto your enemy and then you select your attack. It's all like macro-based again. So you press the attack and then they act it out. But then you've got to wait for your other attacks to recharge before you can make the next move. So you've got to think tactically about what you're doing. But when you attack, there's a line, a blue one for you, or an ally healing you, or a red one from the enemy attacking you. So you don't sort of get lost in the carnage if there's loads of characters on the screen at once. You always know who you're attacking and who's attacking you. I quite like it. It looks lovely. I'm playing it on PS3 because I'm not a big PC gamer, so I'm playing it on PS3 and it works. It's the interface is really, really good. They've really thought about how to map it to a controller, because obviously on a computer you've got all these keys that you can map attacks to. This one, I think they've really thought about.
Have you looked at the differences in the UI between the PC and the PS3 version?
Yeah,
is there a lot of differences?
Obviously, you've got a lot less buttons on a keyboard. You can plug a keyboard into a PlayStation.
Well, I know, because for a lot of games now which have come over from the PC, they have some sort of wheel system. Yeah, I don't know if you use anything like that. Or?
It's basically it's like a PC UI where you've got your attacks lined up in front of you, but this time it looks like you've got a controller on the screen, so it's mapped out like sort of a compass, and then to access certain sides, because you always have 16 squares on the screen, so you've always got 16, and then you can change your attack sets, which you have eight on each side. And all you do is you hold down the trigger, so you R2, access that side, and then depending on what attack you want to do, you've got triangle, circle, X, square, or up, right, left, down.
That's very much sort of Devil May Cry, actually. That used something similar to that, where you would hold R2 and then you would have different... The face buttons would represent whatever R2.
Yeah.
And you'd have it on the left side as well.
Yeah, so you have 8 sets of that. So you've got one side for R2, you've got 8 commands, and then L2, you've got another 8 commands.
Oh, that's too many too many buttons for me.
And then you can make 8 sets of that.
Oh my god!
But obviously, you'll have your main set where you'll have your main attacks. Because I use R2 for my attacks, and then I use L2 for actions, items, like other commands and stuff like that. Because then not only if you've got your main class, you can also get a job class as well. But that completely changes your character. So my main class is a lancer, and I recently got a job class as a level worker. You completely re-equip your character, and then your level drops back down. So your character essentially leveling up 2 different characters depending on what you're doing. So you're starting again. When I'm level 23 lancer, I didn't get a job until earlier. I'm only a level 4 level worker. The only reason I started doing it is because I was waiting for a raid to start.
Yeah.
Because the party system in it is that you can join a raid, but you don't have to form your own party. So basically, it puts you in a lobby, and you carry on doing what you're doing. And as soon as other people to build the team, so instead of everyone being the same class and you all dying because no one can heal you, it'll wait for you to get a couple of healers, damage dealers, tank classes, that sort of thing, and then throw you in together.
Yeah.
So it's not as if you can't access all the quests because you're not playing with other people. It will just throw you in with a mixture of people you don't know, which I think is really good. Which is, I know a lot of MMOs, they don't do that. You have to make your own party.
Well, what about like in terms of actual sort of story and plot? What?
Well, it's called A Realm Reborn because when they first launched Final Fantasy XIV, it didn't get too many great reviews. It was fairly average. It didn't do anything new. So the way they've sort of rebooted the story is that it's set 5 years after an event called the Calamity, which is there's an empire on the borders of the land that you're in. You're in Old Gridania. That's where my character started. Or Eolzia is the name of the world. And you've got an empire that tried to conquer that world 5 years ago, and they used something called Magitech, which is a mixture of technology and magic, and they tried to summon a moon. It's kind of a Dead Spacey element there. They tried to summon a moon, but it happened to be like a shell for something they called a primal, and a fan favourite, Bahamut, erupts out of this moon and almost destroys the world. And then it comes back to the original Final Fantasy element of the Warriors of Light, sort of stop the calamity. No one can remember who they are. No one can remember what they look like.
Oh, Amnesia, that's always a good one.
Yeah. So it's set 5 years after the calamity, and you're an adventurer who's come to the world to basically get fame and fortune, and everyone in the world is very, they're either 4 adventurers, give you lots of work, or they take a little time to gain your trust because they just think they're out for themselves. But your character, because it's your story. I mean, everyone has the same story, but it's your story, where you're the adventurer who's sort of been chosen by the light of the crystal to save Eolzia from ruin, and then you have the opportunity to fight the primal. So it's you get to fight Ifrit, Bahamut, and stuff like that. That's like end game stuff.
Yeah. So how does that work then, interacting with other people?
You'll see other people running around. And then there's obviously got the classic MMO elements of PvP and stuff like that. I haven't done that yet because I'm not really a PvP kind of person. If someone was to fight, go away.
Yeah,
that's what I liked. But in terms of stuff where you have to be in a group, like the party stuff, like the raids and the instances and stuff, it works really well because it just throws you in together, and then everybody, if you are a certain class, everybody knows their place. Everybody knows what they got to do, and what they do is. The person that has the most experience, I don't know if that's the highest level or the most missions or like most quests done or just how long they've played the game in general, they're automatically assigned as the leader.
Okay.
Because I did my first raid the other day, and the guy who was assigned the leader, what he was doing was he was prioritising targets. These numbers would appear above the enemy's heads before we went in there, and there'd be an odd occasion where I'd ignore the number and he would say, stick to my target. So we'd work together to whittle down the enemies one at a time instead of spreading ourselves out too far and exhausting the healer classes, like using up all their magic to heal us because we were both getting killed by two different enemies. So it does work quite well. They've come up with quite a good system. Is that if you are with a team of people, you can work together quite easily because there's no microphone interaction. It's all text based.
Yeah. So I mean, is it you can go around and like a Final Fantasy game, there are random encounters, or does it have a World of Warcraft element that you can have these people and there's a quest and you go off that direction and there's enemies that you know are going to be in that specific area?
There's always enemies on the field. So when you go out, I mean, when a lot of them are not overly aggressive, there's all these different logos next to their name displaying what sort of enemy they are, and you know which ones are going to be automatically aggressive if you get too close to them. But certain quests where they go, oh, you have to slay, I want you to slay this number of beasts. They will be in the area that they send you to, but there might be a slightly higher level, or they'll be marked differently, or you'll have to do something specific to them, or they might have a slightly different name. But there's always enemies on the field, so it's the same as World of Warcraft, where you'll always it's not random encounters. There's always monsters for you to fight.
So I mean, how much longer, or do you think you're going to be sort of tackling this one?
I'm going to be going for it. The level cap at the moment is 50. Because it only launched in end of August, so it's still fairly fresh and fairly new. Which I'm quite happy to be in it at this point in the game, because normally you jump into games that have been going for 4 or 5 years and they're so far away from what they were originally. So it's quite nice to be in this point in the game. I mean, I'm almost halfway to the level cap, which is good. I'm quite looking forward to getting to the end game stuff, because I never get to that part in this type of game and get to experience the end game stuff because it just seems so far away. But this one, I know once I hit that level cap, which shouldn't take me too long, because it does seem to throw a lot of experience at you, but you're always doing something to earn it. It's not just a case of pick a plant, level up 5 times. So yeah, I think I might see this one to the end game and just see how far it can go.
Okay, cool. Well, Final Fantasy 14. I am going to talk a little bit before we finish about Rayman Legends, because for me, Rayman Origins was, or is, and this kind of works along with Rayman Legends as well, the best 2D side-scrolling platformer series since like Super Mario World. And I mean,
bold statement.
It is a bold statement, and I guess you could probably maybe include Super Meat Boy to some degree, but that was a lot more sort of single level, streamlined, orientated experience. But fuck it, I'll throw that in there as well. No, it's really weird because you look back to the original Rayman, which was, for me, it was a pretty big deal on the original PlayStation, and I think that was on a few other consoles as well. And
I think he's done the rounds on everything.
Yeah,
the original Rayman.
Yeah, I think it's even like a fucking Game Boy Advance version of it as well. And then the transition to 3D was just met with what feels like an overwhelming sense of and they weren't bad games. I played number 2 and I enjoyed it, but it was nothing that was compared to what other 2D games which had made the jump to 3D.
I remember not really liking them.
Yeah, I just think there's something about Rayman, I don't know what it is, but it just felt to stick to its origins and be a 2D game. And then it got completely lost in shuffle when the Raven Rabbids came along. And it was really weird that this series, which is called Rayman, really had nothing to do with Rayman anymore.
They were just using his name to push the brand up.
Yeah. And then Origins came along, and I just wasn't expecting it. And I don't think a lot of people were, because it didn't sell very well to start with. But taking a lot of... I don't want to say taken from Super Meat Boy, but taken from this experience of just making a really slick, streamlined, fast platforming experience where there was nothing about lives or anything like that. You was going to die, but that's because the game was challenging, and it was about just repeating that level over and over again. So you got good at it, and you could do it the way it needed to be done. And I love that type of game. I fucking love it. Because I will sit there for an hour on one level. So I got addicted to Trials. I'll get addicted to something like that. It's like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to finish it. And there's no time to have downtime. It's like the level finishes, or that you die, and then boom, level starts again, and you can just do it again. And I don't know. I just get addicted to stuff like that. And Origins worked because it was colourful, it was funny, it had one of the best soundtracks I'd heard in ages. And when I saw some of Legends, they had a trailer for it, and it was a level called Castle Rock, and it has Black Betty playing in the background, and you have to jump in time with it. And you have these enemies appear, and it's like, and you have all these enemies appear at the same time I was just like, yeah, I want me some of this. But then the game come out, and I was like, well, like the actual what I'm seeing looks a lot like Origins. And I went back and forth about it for a few weeks, and I was like, well, that's what I like about Origins, so I should probably play this. So I put it in, and for about the first 15-20 minutes or so, I was like, yeah, this just feels like more of Rayman Origins. But after a few hours, I realised that it's very, very minor tweaks that it does, but it's really good tweaks. So, for example, enemies only take one hit now instead of two hits. And like one of the big things about the new Rayman games is these little yellow fairy creatures called lums or looms or whatever thing you want to call them. And you have to collect however many by the end of the level.
Do you like the little purple guys?
Well, they're yellow, but they can be turned. In this one, this is one of the differences as well. In Origins, they would be yellow, and then every now and again you'd meet a king lum, and you'd pick him, and then all the lums around would turn red.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and then they're worth double the points.
Yeah.
With this one, there's usually like a trail of them, and the one at the end is purple. And if you grab that one, that's two lums, and then they keep going along as the purple one until you get to the end. And if you grab any of the other ones, it breaks the chain of sequence,
right,
and they're only worth one. But they've done it in a way now that, for me, the biggest issue I had with Origins was collecting the lums, because it really became a fucking thankless task, and it slowed the game down a lot. Because what makes the best point of these Rayman games is that you just zip through these levels, almost like sort of like a Sonic type of experience.
Yeah.
You know, you're going through it really, really quickly. And like with the Origin games, each of the levels, you were to get like the final piece of the electrons, which are these things that you have to collect, sort of like collecting. You'd have to go through the level again, and you'd have to do it in the time trial now and get the quickest time.
Yeah.
And that was my favourite things to do. Like, if you ever I'm sure you've played Crash Bandicoot 3.
Of course.
And you'd have the time trials to do.
Yeah.
And I love doing that. Just like, okay, I'm going to sit here, and now I have to use my reflexes to get through this level as quickly as possible. And it's what I loved about Sonic back in the day, but there was no actual task of trying to do the levels as quickly as possible. With here, there's a reason for me to do this. And I mean, by this point, you've gone through the levels a bunch of times, and like the checkpoints are set out really well, so you can just spend ages going through each point. So you're like, right, I can do all of this in one consistent flow, and it's good. And Origins does it, and Legends does it as well. And because of now the way that the lums are set up, and now the way that the enemies are set up, the first time you go through these levels, it's a lot quicker, and you don't have to spend as long jumping on platforms that bring out like one individual lum at a time. You don't have anything. They're all in like big bunches, or all in their sort of single streams, and it makes for a more quicker, fluid experience, and that works. Graphically, it just looks amazing. It's for everyone harping on about next gen stuff. For me, I don't need it any time for a year. If Ubisoft want to keep making games that look as good as this, it's like the Wind Waker thing, like. The HD version of Wind Waker's come out, and Chaz has been saying that it looks just amazing. And to be honest, I've got my GameCube version, and that still looks amazing.
Yeah.
Now that came out in like 2002, 2003, and I love Twilight Princess, but you look at the two, and in terms of the difference in the depreciation of the graphics over the years, Wind Waker looks a million times better. So, I mean, Ubisoft can keep making games that look like this for as long as they want, and I'm not going to complain.
Yeah,
because it looks really, really nice.
I remember really liking the look of Origins just because it's got that nice hand-drawn, really vibrant colours.
Yeah, and all the enemies are really just well animated.
Yeah.
And it carries on with this, but there's more background stuff as well now. And you have to really look into the background to see some of the stuff, which is kind of hard when you're trying to run along at 90 miles an hour. But they've incorporated some 3D models as well, like some of the bosses where you've got dragons and stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They do some really good stuff with that. And it just... Yeah, Technically, it is more of the same of Origins, but as I said, it has a few tweaks that makes it a little bit different. But the level design is just as imaginative, but it's still different. Like at the moment, I'm on a world which is like a Mexican undead fiesta, and it's just fun to go through them. And one of the other mechanics that they have introduced is, and I think it is majorly different depending on what version you're playing it on, because Rayman Legends was originally a Wii U exclusive.
Yeah.
And they have this little Frogger fly type creature who I'm presuming, I haven't played the Wii U version, and I think the Vita version is like this as well. You can sort of drag your finger along the screen and you can pull stuff and move stuff along. With the Xbox and the PS3 versions, you just whack the X button, and whatever you're nearest to that corresponds to what he's nearest to, he will pull along, drag along, and stuff like that. And it is a very simple mechanic, and I guess that the Wii U version probably feels more interactive, but there are still levels where it's all about your reaction time. So you pretty much hold the R trigger down, which makes you run faster, and you can't stop for about 2 minutes because you're being chased by like fire or whatever. So it's about running along, knowing when to jump, the height to what to jump, and then when to press the X button for the guy, the little fly, to move something along, move the platform towards you, then move the platform back. And it's all just quick reaction times. And there's a lot more of this in this game. So there's a lot more just running at full speed and just working with your reactions. And it works because of the fact that it's just really well done from a level design perspective, but also because the difficulty doesn't have these crazy ass random spikes that Origins has. There are just points where it just goes completely balls to the wall, and especially towards the end of the game. With here, there's a much more streamlined consistency in the way that the difficulty goes up.
Yeah.
And it's just a really well put together, well designed game. And if you liked Rayman Origins, there is no reason why you shouldn't play Rayman Legends. If you didn't play Origins, it seems to be free on PS Plus every couple of months.
Yeah, that's how I got it.
Yeah, so you should pick up there and you should give Legends a go, because it does more of the same with a few differences, and those differences makes the game a much, much more enjoyable experience for it. So 2 thumbs up. And also it has I can't remember the name of it. I think it's Kung Football. And did you ever watch Shaolin Soccer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much that, but with Rayman. So thumbs up from me. That should pretty much see us for this particular episode.
Cool.
Thank you very much for coming on, Craig.
No worries. Thanks for having me again.
Very welcome. Very welcome. And I've got a few interviews I'm hoping to set up in soon after going to Eurogamer. So we'll try and get something set up like that. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.